time for some reflections. Philadelphia Eagles come to Cincinnati and spank the Bengals. Bengals are 0-4 at Paycor. Second largest crowd in franchise history at Paycor Stadium. They're in full throat. They were ready for a victory. They were ready to celebrate. All white uniforms. Everything was set up for a big victory. The Eagles said, nah, baby, nah. Let's talk about some of the things they did to win the football game. The Eagles, in the last two football games, they ran the ball 45 times against the New York Giants, 39 times against the Bengals, 84 rushes of the football, averaging 42 carries a game in the last two games. They only threw the ball 14 times against the Giants, 20 times against the Bengals, 34 pass attempts, 17 per game average, running it 42 times, throwing it 17 times. They are bullying people. They are running the ball down the throats of people. They're averaging over 160 yards a game running the football. They ran for 161 against the Bengals. Saquon Barkley's averaging about 110 a game. He ran for 108 against the Cincinnati Bengals. They did what they do. And as a result, Hurts goes 16 for 20, 80%, 236 yards passing. One touchdown pass, quarterback rating 132.5. He also rushed for 3 touchdowns. He had all their touchdowns on the ground. Cincinnati Bengals ran the ball 20 times, averaged less than 3 yards a carry in so doing, 2.9 per. They threw it 37 times, 234 yards, touchdown and an interception. You're thinking, okay, well, the game got out of control a little bit in the second half. That's true. Okay, so let's look at the first half numbers for the Cincinnati Bengals. In the first half, the Bengals ran the ball 9 times for 17 yards, 1.9 per. Threw it 24 times. They were up 10-3 until the Eagles scored right at the end of the half to tie the football game 10-10. One team has one philosophy, the other team has another philosophy. The team that wanted to control the line of scrimmage and be physical won the football game, and they won it in the second half. Once again, we have another chapter in the very long, voluminous reading material from Charles Dickens, A Tale of Two Halves. Cincinnati Bengals, 10-10 in the first half. They lose the second half by 20 points, 27-7 in the second half of that football game. You look at it, the Eagles has still not scored a point in the first quarter. They're outscored 30-0. Bengals score a touchdown in that first drive, that 17-play, 70-yard drive, 6 first downs. The longest play was only 12 yards. They were just putting them in a meat grinder. And boy, I'll tell you, boy, it's a lot of work, though. Philadelphia's like, we're not going to let you beat us over the top. We're not going to give up explosive plays. And, you're thinking, oh, man, this could be something good. That was it. I mean, after that, the Cincinnati Bengals end up struggling, and it shows on the numbers. Talk about turnovers. The Bengals coming in, the Philadelphia Eagles had 2 takeaways. They had 2 interceptions on the season. Well, they have another interception. They had not recovered a fumble until this football game. They have an interception, a fumble recovery, and a stop on downs. So basically, they're a +3. In my mind, in the turnover department. Let's talk big plays, another factor in a football game. Chunks, explosives, whatever you want to call it. The Bengals had no runs of 10 yards or more, 0. Joe Burrow had a first down scrambling, 8 yards. That was big, kept the drive alive on the first drive. That was big. That was the longest run from scrimmage. The longest run by a running back, 5 yards. In the first half, the longest run was 3 yards. I mean, you just can't have that. Passes of 15 yards or more, the Bengals had 3, 24, 28, and 41 yards. Philadelphia, runs of 10 yards or more, had 5 of them, 11 yards, 12 yards, 17, 19. Passes of 15 yards or more, 7 of them, 15, 17, 19, 23, 28, 29, and a 45-yard touchdown. I mean, Philadelphia hasn't scored a point in the first quarter. They're -4 still, even being +2 in this game. They're -4 on the season. Turnover ratio. They're 5-2. The Cincinnati Bengals go 10 for 13 on third down in this football game. 10 for 13. They convert a 3rd and 22, but they can't convert a 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1. They go 0 for 1 on 4th down with that non-conversion, trying to throw that ball out there to Jamar Chase. I can understand it. Get Jamar in space. He's the toughest guy to tackle on the football team in space. DeGene said, nah, I got it. Great play by him. So 10 for 13. They don't punt, and they lose the football game by 20 points. You tell me how all this makes sense. I mean, if I didn't see it, I wouldn't believe it. The football game came down to, it was 10-10 at halftime. The Bengals get the football because the Eagles win the toss, they defer. The Bengals take the ball. They go down the length of the field, 17 plays, 70 yards. They take over 10 minutes off the clock in doing it. I mean, the Eagles don't even get a possession in the first quarter. By the time they're done with their first possession, it's the second quarter. I mean, you talk about keep away. Bengals had it 10 minutes and 4 seconds to 4:56 for the Eagles. Fourth quarter just flipped around. Eagles, 11:39, 11 minutes, 39 seconds. Bengals, 3 minutes and 21 seconds in the fourth quarter. And it boiled down to the Philadelphia Eagles scored on 6 straight possessions. The touchdown to end the first half. Every possession in the second half. 5 possessions, 5 scores. Touchdown, touchdown, field goal, touchdown, field goal. Cincinnati Bengals in the second half. Touchdown, and then 3 straight possession. Stopped on downs, interception, fumble, and then send in the backup quarterback and end the game from the last drive. They had 8 snaps in that 3 possession sequence of being stopped on downs, interception, and fumble. 4 plays, they gained 3 yards. 7 yards. 4 plays, they gained 7 yards. Turn it over on downs. 3 plays, 16 yards, throw the interception. Great play on the interception as well. You got to give them credit. They get paid too. And then Gesicki catches a 3-yard pass, fumbles the football. 1 play, 3 yards. 8 snaps, 26 yards, 3 giveaways. That was the football game in a nutshell right there. Case closed. Set, match, point. Point, set, match, whatever it is, whatever. But, it's pretty remarkable when you look at some of the numbers, and numbers are for losers, but bottom line, in the second half of that football game and down the stretch of that football game, the Philadelphia Eagles said, I'm going to run it. I know I'm going to run it. I'm going to run it. And I know I'm going to run it, but I'm still going to run it. And they did. They controlled the line of scrimmage, and they just suffocated the Cincinnati Bengals down the stretch. The Bengals, in 4 losses prior to this football game, had lost by a combined 15 points. 5 losses, I should say. No, 4 losses. They lost by 6 to New England. They lost by a point to Kansas City, 5 points to Washington, 3 points to Baltimore, 15 points total in those 4 losses. In the 5th loss, Philadelphia, they lose by 20. Very un-Bengals-like. So what you do is you look at the tape, you make corrections, you flush it down and move on. Right now with the 3-5 record, I mean, if they could have won this football game and gone to 4-4, Cleveland rises up and beats Baltimore. I mean, great advantage opportunity to take advantage of, and the Bengals can't do it. But they still have Baltimore. They still have Cleveland. They have Pittsburgh twice. So they have some matchups that are super important coming down the pike here. But let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders, because that's the next game. And, 7-2 to make the playoffs. Maybe 6-3 might get them there. Hell, are you kidding me? How about beating the Raiders? There's no guarantee of that. The Las Vegas Raiders played Kansas City off their feet. So did the Bengals. Kansas City's undefeated, though. They find ways. Good teams find ways to win football games. Bengals aren't finding ways to win football games. The Las Vegas Raiders lose to Kansas City 27-20. Kansas City's defense is leading the way. They had an unbelievable goal line stand against the Raiders to basically close that game out. I mean, 1st and goal at the 1-yard line, and they get a sack on 4th down. That's rising up, man. That's getting it done. But this football team is minus 13 in the turnover ratio. Huh? Yeah, minus 13. 17 giveaways. They've given up 3 touchdowns on returns, 1 pick six. They haven't given up a punt return touchdown or a kickoff return touchdown, so it has to be a couple of fumbles. 3 scores. on returns. I mean, that's hard to win football games that way. Their quarterbacks as a group, 10 interceptions they've thrown. They fumbled the ball 9 times, lost 7 of them. You kidding me? Man, they've been giving football games away, literally. So that's a big thing. I'm looking at the first quarter, they outscored people by 5. Second and third quarter, they've been outscored by 44 points in the second quarter, 16 points in the third. Outscored by 60 points in the second and third quarter. Looks like that's when you make hay, against this football team. They do have Crosby. He's got 6.5 sacks, and he's a complete football player. He plays the run as well as being an outstanding pass rusher. That's where the Bengals have a little bit of uncertainty. Orlando Brown, with that attachment area where the calf meets the hamstring, got a little problem with whatever that body part is. And how long will he be able to stay in the football game if he's able to go at all? He couldn't complete the football game against Philadelphia. Will he be able to go against an outstanding football player in Crosby? That's going to be an interesting thing to follow all week long. Minshew has 8 of the 10 interceptions, 6 touchdown passes, 8 interceptions. They're not running the football very well. The Cincinnati Bengals, as we know, are not running the football very well. The Bengals have rushed it for 718 yards. They've given up 1,114. Well, not much better, the Raiders. The Raiders have only rushed it for 632. They've given up 1,039. They're giving up 4.6 yards per carry. They're only rushing it for 3.6. That's a full yard differential to the negative. Maybe the Bengals will get their running game untracked against the Raiders and stop the Raiders' running attack. Sick of seeing them being outrushed by a football field. You got to be more competitive than they're being in the running game. You have to have some sort of a modicum of balance. 25 runs, 25 passes against Cleveland. I was encouraged. That's not the norm, though. There's no doubt about that. It's going to be an interesting football game. It's going to be a very important football game. The Cincinnati Bengals have to come out and take control of this football game early. And all the things that you think are important are going to be important in this football game. Third downs. The Raiders are basically converting 1 out of 3, 33%. The Bengals have to stop them on third down. The Bengals have to sustain drives like they did in this football game, 10 of 13. Are you kidding me? Against a really good defensive football team. Drives me crazy. Red zone. The Bengals are going to have to take care of business in the red zone. They're going to have to take care of the business, win the turnover ratio, all the important things, the ABCs, the big matchup, whoever's at the left tackle position going against Crosby. Will the Bengals be able to take advantage of some of the favorable matchups personnel-wise on their side of things? Will their receivers will T. Higgins be able to roll? That's going to be a big one. Will it be Chase and Higgins again back on the football field together? So many things to contemplate. It's early in the week, so we'll find out as the weekend approaches. But this is the most important football game of the season because it's the next game of the season, and you're 3-5. You're 2 games under 500 again. You got to crawl out of another hole. You got to do it before the bye week. Can't be under 500 after week 11. We'll see how the Bengals fare in this one. Should be an interesting contest. I hope the Bengals play a complete football game. Offense, complement defense, special teams, complement them both. Play a complete football game. Put the Raiders away. Send them back on that long flight home.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.